Hello everyone, welcome. Hope you all are doing great today. My name is Oluwapelumi Fapondere and I'm a DevOps engineer, and I'm going to be introducing a new concept to the whole cloud community. So within the span of 3 to 6 months, I'm going to be creating over 20 real-world scenario DevOps projects. So whether you're a DevOps engineer, a sysops administrator, a system administrator, a cloud infrastructure administrator, or developer, or even a DevSecOps engineer, and you want to get production, like real world production hands-on DevOps scenarios, then I advise you should tune into this series. So for the projects for today, we're going to be creating a thumbnail image with AWS Serverless Application Model and Lambda. We're going to be making the Python framework for our Lambda. So I'm breaking this project into like 3 series because I don't want the video to be very long and boring. So there's some certain things that we'll not be able to cover in this video, but I'll make sure that we are able to like cover a particular task per video so we can get something tangible out of each video. So for this video, we're going to be creating a thumbnail image with AWS SAM and Lambda. So the projects. So for the project, the user is going to upload an image to the S3 bucket. So S3 bucket has a feature called events, which is going to work with the Lambda function. So the Lambda is going to work basically based on the events that has been created for the S3 bucket. So you can create an event whereby you say once an object is being placed in this particular bucket, whether it's an image, a file, or a document, you want it to trigger this your particular Lambda function. So then the Lambda function is now going to take that particular, it's going to work based on that particular event, then transform and resize the image that the user has already uploaded into a smaller image. Then it's now going to push that smaller image to the thumbnail bucket. So that's just basically what we're going to do for this series. In future series, we're going to be basically making use of DynamoDB table, whereby we can get the metadata of this smaller version of our image. Then we can now connect the DynamoDB table to something like an Amazon API gateway, and then users can now access the resized image over the internet. So let's just continue. So the tools we're going to be using. Is AWS SAM, which is Serverless Application Model. We're going to be making use of AWS Lambda, AWS S3, VS Code, AWS CLI, and yeah. So I just want to give like a brief description of the tools we're going to be using and basically what we're trying to achieve. So the first tool is the AWS SAM. What is AWS SAM? AWS SAM can be defined as an open source framework for building serverless application. AWS SAM makes use of an extension of CloudFormation templates to provide a simplified way of provisioning services such as AWS Lambda, Amazon API Gateway, and DynamoDB tables. So if you've worked with some infrastructure as code tools such as Terraform, Pulumi, or even CloudFormation, whereby you can provision your infrastructure on the fly, then this should be a breeze for you. So there are some basic components of AWS SAM. We have the AWS SAM templates. This is where you specify the properties to create and describe functions, IAM permissions, and APIs. Then we also have the AWS SAM CLI. So we're going to basically be making the AWS SAM CLI to test application locally before deploying to AWS. The next tool we're going to be touching on is AWS Lambda. So what is AWS Lambda? AWS Lambda is basically a serverless computing service provided by AWS, whereby you do not need to provision your servers to run your code. It's basically designed for event-driven computing. It executes your code based on changes to your S3 buckets, update to DynamoDB table, or even HTTP requests to API gateway. Then another tool we're going to be using is the AWS S3. It's a very popular AWS tool. So it's an object storage service provided by AWS. It's basically used for media storage, data archiving, or static web hosting. So I'm going to be opening my terminal up right about now. So we're going to be installing some particular dependencies for this project. So first of all, you need to have AWS CLI already installed on your PC, whether you're using a Mac or Windows. I'm not going to go through that on this video, but I'm going to drop a link or to a description on how to do that. So if you want to know whether you have AWS CLI already installed, you can just type AWS configure. So you have your, this is where you put your AWS access keys. I don't need to explain all this too. Basically, AWS access keys just give you like programmatic access to the AWS platform. So you get that from your AWS console. So you put your AWS access keys, the region you're going to be working in, and then the output format, and then basically making use of YAML. So the first dependency we're going to be installing is the SAM CLI. I already have it installed, but I'm just going to show the process and how to install it so we all can go through it. So it's going to be pip3 install AWS SAM CLI. Once that is installed, you can check the SAM version of what you just, like you can check the version of the serverless application model that's just been installed. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to create a new serverless application model project. So I'm just going to clear the screen right about now. So we're going to create a new directory. The directory, I'm going to call it scale S3 image resizer. And we're going to cd into that project directory. So once we've entered into that directory, we're going to initialize a new serverless application model project. So we're going to write some units. We're going to specify the runtime we're using. As I said, we're going to make use of Python, and I'm going to make use of Python 3.8. So we're going to be clicking quick templates. Yeah, we're going to make use of the Hello World example. We're going to make a lot of changes to that. I don't want X-ray. I'm not, no. And basically for Lambda functions, I'm going to make use of YAML formats. So I'm going to say no for JSON formats too. So for the name of our project, I'm going to give it image resizer version 1.0. So once that is done, I can just ls cd into it and code that. So basically, I'm going to take out events from here. I don't need it. I'm going to take out tests. I'm going to take out init Python, and I'm going to rename this to image resizer. I'm going to take this one out too. You know what? I'm going to bring in app.py out. Then I'm going to take this guy out. Yeah. So I'm going to clear all this because we want to create a project from scratch. So we don't need all these guys. So yeah, let me just open the terminal right below. So for this part is I'm just going to like write some parts of the blocks of the code. Then I'll explain. I'll do a particular part again. Then I'll explain what each part does, and we can go on from there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. First of all, we're importing some modules that we want to use for our code. And the first one is basically OS. So OS just basically provides us with a way to interact with the operating system. Then the second one we're importing is byte.io from the IO module. The byte.io is basically like a convenient memory file like objects that can use to like read and write binary data. Then the next one is we're importing image from PIL. PIL is a very popular Python module. So basically, PIL is Python imaging library, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, is we use this for image processing. Then Boto tree is what we use to interact with our AWS grid services. So it's basically like a software development kit for Python that we use to interact with our AWS services. So the next thing, I'm going to do another block of code again, and then I'll explain. So let's just continue. So what we're just doing here is we're just creating a client that will be able to make us to interact with our S3 environment to either get the data or put the data into the buckets. So just going to continue. I'm just going to try my best to speed up this so that we can get into the explanation. And we're going to create one for the key. So for this part, basically what we're doing is we're trying to like extract the bucket's name from the events record, and then we're also trying to like extract what is called the key part of the object that is being triggered from the Lambda function. So that's what this bunch of code is doing here, and we're just looking through the old events that have been occurring. So let's just continue. Let's get object, then define your buckets, which will be equals to buckets. Key will be equals to key. Image contents just to response. Body read. So for this line of code here, what this does is basically downloading the particular that image that the user already uploaded from the S3 buckets. So let's just continue with this part. So now we want to resize the image. So this is what the next line of code is going to basically be doing. But this line of code is basically the part that's going to resize the image. Image content, then thumbnail. So we're resizing it. So size of, let's resize it to a size of 100 pixels. Let's just do 100 for this video. Let's do 100 for this video. So the next part now, we're going to upload the resized image back to the S3 buckets. So now we've already resized the image that we want to upload it back to the S3 buckets. So that's what I want to do now. Format, thumbnails, how do you spell thumbnails? Slash, I'm going to make it a course, parts, its page name, and the key. The thumbnail content. And thumbnail, save, thumbnail, thumbnail, the content has been saved. So we're resizing it, we want to make use of JPG formats. So we're resizing the image and we've resized the image at this point here. So we're now uploading the resized image in a JPEG format, that's JPG. So that's the format we're basically going to make use of. So thumbnail underscore content, then click. Then the final part of the code, we're now going to we've uploaded it to we've uploaded this image back to S3. So we're now going to take it back to the particular bucket. That's the S3, same S3 bucket that we're using. So let's say we created the S3 bucket called something like cap. So we're now going to take the uploaded image that has been taken, that's the smaller image, to that cap bucket, and then store it there. It's going to have its own particular folder. It's going to be named thumbnail. You'll see everything in action once we run the whole script. So that's what this last part actually does. Yeah, so we are done with our Python code. So the next thing we're going to work on the template or YAML, which is basically like the SAM templates, the Serverless Application Model templates. So this is more DevOpsy. So the first thing, if you've worked with CloudFormation template, you know that you will first put your AWS template format version, which is this. Oh, sorry, I don't know why it just went away. Basically 2010 09 09. Then we have transform. I'm just gonna get, this should be AWS Serverless (2016). And you can describe your project. What does this SAM template do. So I'm just going to say image resizer. I'm going to say belt sticks image resizer. So we're going to create our resources. The first resource we're going to be creating is the Lambda function we're going to be using, which is the image resize function. So again, this is just basically like class formation. So we're making use of the serverless function type. And it's going to have some particular properties. So the first one is the handler. It's basically updates lambda underscore handler. Then, as I said earlier, we're making use of Python 3.8 runtime. Then for the code, the URL code, the path of the code basically is at the root of our directory, so we can just put dots. And we're going to give the name of our Lambda function. You can give it any name, but I'm going to call mine image size function, so that the name is like not but I call the name of the resource image right function, so I'm just basically calling the function also the same name. Sorry, should be function name, I guess. Then this memory size, we're going to specify memory size. So this is the particular amount of memory that is going to be allocated to, sorry about that, to the Lambda function. And we're going to specify also timeouts. So basically, timeout is specifying like the maximum execution time for the Lambda function. Then we're going to create like the events. So this, like I said earlier in the beginning, Lambda function works based on the events from the S3 buckets. So this is the events we're going to like create right about now. I'm going to call it S3 events. So type will be S3 and properties. So it has some properties like buckets. I'm also going to create the bucket in this particular, we're going to create the bucket as a resource. So I'm just going to leave this place blank for now. So the events is basically going to be when an object is being created in the S3 bucket. Yeah. So I'm going to create another resource, which is the S3 buckets. I'm going to call it the image buckets. if you worked with CloudFormation, then all this should be quite familiar. Let's bring buckets. So I'm going to reference this created buckets. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to do this reference image buckets. And I'm going to save this. So our code is complete. So now let's build our code now that we're already done with writing the whole code that we need, both our Amazon SAM template and our Python Lambda code. So for the syntax to build our own infrastructure and everything, it's SAM build. So our build has succeeded. So you can see it created a new folder for us that basically shows everything about our build. So it shows the same templates here, the one we just created. So this is what we're going to be deploying to AWS. And you see how it basically makes use of a CloudFormation templates to carry out the whole process. So to deploy, we're going to say SAM deploy -- guided. So yes, this is my region. Confirm changes before deploy, yes. Allow SAM, say yes. Disable rollback. I'll say no. Save agreements, yes. Then this. So currently now it's deploying, and let me just show you the fun stuff about this stuff is that it basically uses CloudFormation. So if you go to CloudFormation, so I'm just gonna close this. Let me just open. One second. If you go to CloudFormation on your Amazon console, you basically see that it's creating the whole infrastructure. So it's going to first create like the SAM CLI manage defaults infra. Then it's going to now create all the Lambda function, the S3 bucket and everything. So let me just keep on refreshing this. Okay, so this one is complete. Still going to ask me for something here. So just 1 second. So I'll say yes, deploy these change sets. So now if we go back to CloudFormation and you refresh this, you should see that yes, it's creating our image resizer function and it's creating the role, and it's going to also create like an S3 bucket because we specified it in the templates to create an S3 bucket. So let's just keep on refreshing. You could also see it from the terminal also, like you can see what is happening from the terminal right here. But if you want to like get more overview, it's basically making use of CloudFormation, so you can just check what's going on from CloudFormation also. So this might just take some time, so I'm just going to give it time for it to create all the resources. And when you're creating yours, if you want to check it from, okay, so now the image buckets has popped up, so we should see it here. Yeah, so it's creating the buckets that we're going to make use of. So let's just go back to the terminal and wait for it to complete. So we're done. It's successfully created our image resizer. And now the next thing we want to do is to go and test our resizer and let's see whether everything is working fine. So let's go to Lambda. So we can currently see it has created a function for us. So let's enter that function that we just created. So we're going to test the whole process from here, and let's see if we run into any errors. So let's just give it some time to load. So tests, I'm just going to create like dummy events. So just going to say tests if test. So we've run into an error. So basically, Lambda sometimes doesn't come with some modules that are like there's some modules from Python which Lambda doesn't actually have. So we need to like create something called layers. So you see these layers here. So we need to like get those dependencies, those external dependencies that Lambda doesn't have. Then we'll include it as a layer into our whole framework, because currently Lambda does not have the Pillow image processing framework available. So we have to get it. So I'm using an open source. Um, I'm basically using this open source package from GitHub. So let's just go to layers. Then I'm going to add a layer. So I'm going to specify an ARN. So next I'm going to get the Pillow ARN from this open source. So Python version, just going to do it based on the way it did it. 3.8. Yeah. Then we're using London, so that's EUS 2. So I'm going to find Pillow ARN. So this is the ARN we're going to copy out, basically. So I'm going to close this, or let's just go there. So I'm going to paste that ARN and verify. So yeah, I'm going to add it as a layer. And once we add this guy, I guess our code should be fine. So the next thing we're going to go to is S3 bucket. So now we're going to test the whole process whereby the user is going to upload. So I'm going to perform the action as the user, and I'm going to upload an image to S3 bucket. And let's see if it resizes the image to a smaller image and then pushes it to a new bucket. So now basically we're going to be going to the created buckets from our SAM templates. So let me just look for the recently created one because I have a bunch of buckets already here. So the time is 6:10 p.m. So I'm guessing it should be this one. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to upload an object. And what should happen is that it should resize that image that I'm going to upload to a smaller version and then store it into a folder called thumbnail. And that folder should have like the smaller image. So let's just watch that happen. So I'm going to use this upload. So once that is done, let's go back to our S3 buckets. So you can see it has created the thumbnail folder and it has resized it to 2.2 kilobytes. An image of basically 290 kilobytes was resized to 2.2 kilobytes. And you can view the image. It's actually going to be pretty small when we download it. So you can see you can view it. It's the same image and it's going to be pretty small. So you can see the image here. It's pretty smaller than the exact image that was actually loaded, which is basically like a thumbnail. So we can test it again for another image to see that it's working perfectly fine. So let's go back to our buckets that we created with the SAM framework. Let's upload an image. I have another image here, or I'm going to upload this one. Let's do this one. So upload. So this image is around 596 kilobytes. It should resize it to a smaller size, basically fitting it around 100 pixel. Because if you go back to our code, we remember that we actually specified that we wanted to resize our image to an 100 pixel image. So basically that's what is happening currently. So let's go back to see whether that took effect in S3 buckets. Let's go to thumbnails. And we have a resized image of 3.8 kilobytes stored in the thumbnails. So that's it for our video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long, and I hope I was able to keep you guys through all the video, through the series of the codes, the implementation. I hope you actually enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, any contributions, if you think that I didn't do anything right, if you feel like there are things that I could do to make it better, just any form of contributions or questions, you can leave it right down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next series. Bye.